Why do we need meditation in this generation? Because in this generation, everything is so chitzoni, everything's so outside. And meditation is a state of being where you come in contact with your own inside. People today are so far away from, we're so far away from our insides. We're so afraid even to look at what's going inside of ourselves. So we have to occupy ourselves constantly with outside stimulus in order to forget how much pain we're in, how much confusion there is. And the mind is constantly running. המוח כל הזמן חושב, מחשבות, בלי סוף. And we tend to identify with the thoughts. But we're not our thoughts. Because who we really are can only be found by going deeply within. The technique is an ancient technique that was passed down from King David. And King David wrote in Tehillim, Shaviti Hashem lenegdi talmid. I put before myself God's name always. And this is the technique of meditation of the Jewish people. Esa einai el ha-harim. Everybody knows the Kabbalah says the harim are the otiyot. Me'ayin yovo ezri, me'ein yovo ezri. Me'ha'or shel ein sof ze betochi. When we meditate, we sit still. We a little bit forget the body for a moment. We don't put the emphasis on our body, although we're aware of the body. But we go inward. And inward is where God is found. Lo rachok lo b'shamayim, aval karov levavecha. God can be found inside your own heart, inside your own mind. There's a chelek Elokeim, Elohei Memal, that's inside of every one of us. And the way to come in contact with that is through meditation. The way I understand that, the only way you can meet God is to go within. You have to go inside yourself and look for God inside yourself. Look for the light. There's light. The Or Ein Sof is found also within our own selves. God's light is within us. That's what it means. A helek Elohai memal is betochi. There's a little piece, a little part of Hashem that's inside of each of us, a spark. And that spark can be seen if you look for it. It exists within us. The Or Ein Sof is not something that's a billion miles away. It's right within us. You can look for it, and that's the work of meditation, to look for God within, to find Hashem within your own self. You know who's the greatest example of finding God within? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is such a kli, he's such a vessel for bringing the infinite light down into the physical plane. Because Moshe is the vessel, he's the merkava. In the Far East, when I first started out, and we'll talk a little bit about maybe somewhat of my journey as a young man in America and in Woodstock, in the great festival of Woodstock, and searching in the 60s for, to find myself, to find God inside. But Moshe Rabbeinu was the great avatar, the great merkava of bringing God's energy into the world through his entire being. So I think in this generation, meditation is extremely important. We need it because we have to slow down a little bit. Everything's running too fast. And when things run too fast, you miss the most beautiful, simple things. You need to slow down. We need to become more childlike. And there are many things in all the systems of meditation, even amongst the non-Jewish forms of meditation, great similarities. However, we have a specific technique that's been given to us. You know, today, a very famous, a very well-known word is the word mantra. Mantra is a word coming from the Far East, and I think it's a word that's part of the vocabulary of the world today. I mean, it's mentioned on the news and everywhere you hear people talking about a mantra. A mantra is a repetition of a sound, syllable, or a phrase over and over again, or maybe it's used today in a broader sense, an idea that's brought over and over again. The mantra, the great mantra of the Jewish people is God's name, Yud, He, Vav, and He, Yud, Ke, Vav, Ke, Baruch Hu, Shemo. God's name is our great mantra, and it was given to us as a vehicle by meditating, by concentrating on God's name, by visualizing that name within, seeing the letters, by hearing the sound. It brings us within our own, to go deeper inside our own selves. And then the thought processes that are constantly static noise all around us fall away, and something new comes in. And what happens in meditation, and I find this for myself and many of those of my students or fellow meditators, that at some point during meditation, you find that you are no longer meditating on God, but rather that God begins to meditate on you. And that's when meditation happens. And you come into a state of consciousness where you actually experience, you can taste that Hashem is with you, within you. And it's beyond words. Because no words can express what it means to know God. To know God is the greatest bliss, ecstasy in the whole universe. There is no pleasure, not even 1,000 times, compared to what knowing God is. One moment of knowledge of God, real knowledge, knowing knowledge, on the level of what does it mean, where the word meditation comes from. It comes from the word dea, liadat, meditation. The Greeks took the word from us, but it means to know. And we know that knowing, dea, is lashon, as it's brought down in Chassidus, va'adam yada et chava ishto. It's the language of chibur, of oneness, of ecstasy, of bliss. Basically, I started out my spiritual journey in the 60s. As a student, college student. The 60s in America was the time of the hippie, flower child, Yaldei Prachim. And I was a young hippie, a real hippie, experimenting with psychedelics, psychedelic chemicals. And I found in those days that my experience brought me to a very deep realization that there really is one God. There really is. And that God is found within us. You can experience God inside you. You can experience Hashem. God is an experience, not just a theory. Many of the teachers who came through America at that time were from the Far East, from India. Young Jewish people of that generation were searching for something spiritual. It was an extremely deep spiritual time. And it was clear to everyone that psychedelics was not a path that would last forever. That it took more than just taking a little pill to find one's inner self. That at some point you had to get off and walk up the mountain. You couldn't just take a rocket ship. And that there was going to be some work involved. Work on one's midot and work on learning how to be a deeper person. That to come to one's inner self is a life's work. So young Jewish people who were at the spearhead of searching and looking for God. And I think it all happened around 1967 when we returned to we the Jewish people returned to Yerushalayim and came back to the Kotel, to the Western Wall. And there came a Gilui Shechina into the world. There was a revelation of God that came in the world. And many young hippies picked it up. I was one of them. And the truth about being a hippie is, if you're a real hippie, not on the outside, because hippie isn't about just having long hair and dressing wild and, getting high. If you're a real hippie, you're always a real hippie. You can't stop being it. It's just who you are. There's nothing you can do. You can never stop. And what I found in those days, what it meant to be a hippie was also to be connected to earth, to sky, to Mother Earth, to Father Sky, to the four winds, and to the one, the only one. To be in touch with nature. And when I began to search, I checked out all the different religions. And I found there was something definitely there. Yesh chachma b'gayim, we know that. But that's not just some nice little thrown out statement. It's true. There is wisdom amongst the nations. And there are chasidei me'omot olam. And I had the great fortune of meeting a number of those people and having them as my teachers. And even though they were not Jewish, they were very, very high beings and very spiritual. That's not to say that potentially we Jewish people can reach the most exalted, higher levels there are. But we haven't yet really begun to touch on it. And I think meditation is something that we need in order to begin to get in touch with our real purpose for being in the world, which is to be a light unto the nations. And you can't be a light unless you're filled with light. You need to be a light to be a light. And you need to be in touch with the light. And that light is within us. In the old days, in the times of the temple, there were schools of prophecy. And it's true that many of the old prophets were shepherds. And I went through a period of being a shepherd here in Israel. But more than this, when prophets wanted to get together to prophesize, so they would play music and sing and be happy first. And then you could come to level of prophecies, and they would sit. Chasidim Rishonim hayu shahaha sha'a lifnei hatfila v'sha'a achrei hatfila. And this sitting is meditation. Being a vessel. Prayer happens in between. The sitting before and after is the meditative part, which is a vessel. Prayer is more of a work. You have to really put yourself into it. Meditation is non-work. It's a work on the inner level, but not on the physical level. Physically, we are stilling the body. We're sitting. And sitting is a wisdom. And it's one of the great wisdoms that I learned from my teachers, some of those who were not Jewish. I learned how to sit. So I want to talk a little bit about what I do in my classes, in my Sadnot or my shiurim. We always start off singing in order to come into a good mood. I usually sing melodies from my Rebbe, Reb Shlomo Carlebach. And I like to tell a Hasidic story, or maybe learn something deep Torah or something from the Kabbalah that I think is shayach to the idea of meditation. And then we move towards the meditation itself. The meditation itself is a number of parts. I like to do some breathing just to relax the body and breathe into the body. And the meditation is on Hashem's name, as I said, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And so when I do breathing, I do Yud-Kei Vav-Kei breathing. How is that? According to the Zohar, Tikkuni Zohar, we're created in the image of Hashem. The head is a Yud. The arms and the shoulder and the other arm is a Hey. And the trunk of the body is a Vav. And the waist and the legs is a Hey. So we have Hashem's name really written right on our bodies. In fact, even on our heads, which is even more so, right? Because according to the Tikkuni Zohar, the eyes are Yuds. And the ears are Heys. And the nose is a Vav. And the mouth is a Hey. And even more so, and this is a very deep secret here, the nose are two Yuds and a Vav. Yud is 10, 10 is 20, and a Vav is 6. 26 is Gematria, Yud, Hey, Vav, and Hey. Hashem's name. That's the secret of the Jewish nose. Really, Hashem's name is with us. And we're created in Hashem's image. So I like to do breathing first into the Yud, and the Yud is Olam Atzilut, the highest world, corresponding. And then the first Hey, Olam Bria, the upper Hey, and then the Vav, Olam Yetzirah, the emotional world, and fill the soul, the mind, the emotions, and then the last Hey, Olam Asiyah, the entire body, the physical plane, with life force, breath, neshama, neshima. And then we connect to the group soul, the neshama klali of all of Am Yisrael in the meditation. And then after that, we say Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu Shem Echad, and the first pasuk, Shem Kevod V'Ahavta. And then ready for meditation. And the meditation, again, is on Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and we meditate together. Sometimes I do meditation for 1 minute, because people don't have strength these days for more than that. Or 10 minutes, or 18 minutes. But depending on the group. And it's very important to meditate in a group, because things happen when you're in a group that are amazing, and the results are amazing. You wouldn't believe what people experience. It's so, so interesting. Afterwards, I like to, after the meditation, everyone relaxes, we have a cup of tea, And people talk about their experiences in meditation, and it's a wonderful thing to hear people talk about what happened to them during the meditation. You wouldn't believe it. It's amazing what people experience. Light and letters and flying and colors and things happen. Lamrot, that's not the purpose of meditation. The purpose of meditation is it's an appointment with God. It's an appointment with Hashem. And the thing is to keep the appointment. And it's not kol kach chashuv what happens during the meditation, whether it's filled with light or it isn't, or whatever happens. The important thing is to keep the appointment. And there's a lot to be said, and I'm inviting everyone to come meditate with me. I am not a guru. I don't want to pretend to be. My Rebbe Reb Shlomo says, you know what the problem with us Jewish people is? We have everything in the kitchen and nothing on the table. We need holy waiters. So I would like to be, if I could, be one of God's holy waiters. Bring a few things from the kitchen, put it on the table, so we can eat it, you can taste it, see how good it is. Tamu, v'tiru, kama tov.